Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather on this 15th day of July 2018. No warnings, watches, or advisories are out anywhere in the state. No flood advisories or any kind of river watches out. So we'll just go right to the fire danger chart here. And less than yesterday, only area left now is an area of extreme, surrounded by high fire danger up here again in the same place. Yukon Flats there around where the mouth of the Porcupine flows into the Yukon, and really not much change in that expected for the next couple of days, with temperatures today though cooler than they had been, just barely rising into the lower 70s by 3 p.m. And on the satellite imagery, you can see there are some clouds up there breaking out a little bit, let enough sun through to allow those temperatures to at least crack 70 degrees in some areas. Another swath of sunshine here from the, looks like right around the Koyukuk Valley, eastern Kobuk Valley, due south across Kuskokwim into northeast Bristol Bay. Pretty nice over Kodiak. A trough sliding southeastward over higher pressure back out through here, bringing some light amounts of precipitation today across the St. Lawrence Island area and in across the Seward Peninsula and on up into the northwest there. Not too heavy though, with Kotzebue and Nome both picking up about 1/10 of an inch during the day today, and some areas of light rain, fog, and drizzle down along the coastal areas there, with clouds spreading over just about all the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta areas and then spreading right up to the Kuskokwim Mountains, in across Togiak Bay toward Dillingham, but again the drier conditions off to the east. Clouds, no precipitation there at St. Paul and St. George today. A little of a break here with higher pressure ridging up ahead of the next system, which has yet to spread rain into the Shemya area. Actually, the rain-producing clouds right through here on back, and that'll be moving in this evening. Along the southeast coast, had low pressure weakening here in the Gulf of Alaska, and then that frontal boundary also dissipating as it moves inland. That brought a fair amount of rain today in across the northern panhandle, back to the west here along the North Gulf Coast, anywhere from, let's see, Cordova picked up about 1/3 of an inch of precipitation today, while Middleton Island had 1/2 an inch of rain. Again, that's a 12-hour period ending at 3 p.m. this afternoon or mid-afternoon. But Yakutat, 1.42 inches in that same time period. So the heaviest rain here over in that area, extending southeastward there, where Juneau had a little over 1/2 an inch in the same 12-hour period. And then those rainfall amounts lighten up as you head southward toward the Annette and Heidelberg area and Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, isolated thunderstorms started showing up again at mid-afternoon over the White Mountains north of Fairbanks and also up over the eastern Brooks Range area. And not too bad, south central Alaska, with a possible shower, which has yet to develop over the Kenai Peninsula. And for tonight, look for partly to mostly cloudy skies, south central Alaska. General clearing trend in store for Kodiak Island there, with that northwest or west-northwest flow off the Aleutian Range and across the island. However, frontal wave will roll northeastward here along this frontal boundary separating the cooler air back to the northwest from the much warmer air off to the southeast. And so a couple of waves rolling up. That's going to keep it wet in over all of the southeast coast tonight as that low continues to weaken here in the Gulf of Alaska. Isolated showers mostly over the eastern Copper River Basin and isolated through the central interior. And then that trough slowly weakening and edging eastward here, not making a lot of eastward progress, but it'll bring a pretty good chance of showers in across the southwest interior on out to the coast. Low clouds, fog, areas of showers, light rain, drizzle. IFR about sums it up out here with that northwest flow coming over the top of this higher pressure ridge in advance of that next system, which will spread rain eastward to Atka or to Adak around midnight or later tonight to Atka toward morning, while it tries to dry out over the eastern Aleutians. And then for tomorrow, maybe some sun there in front of Alaska and Nikolsky, Dutch Harbor. Possibly even the Pribilof Islands could see some sunshine or sun breaks if the low clouds clear, and also along the southwest coast, improving conditions. Chance of showers, Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Pretty good chance of sunshine for Kodiak Island tomorrow. And isolated thunderstorms, afternoon showers again here, especially over the mountainous terrain from the actually Chugach, Talkeetnas, and then up over the eastern Brooks Range. See the best chance of any thunderstorm activity tomorrow. And then showers mostly scattered or mostly along this trough axis here, the remnants of the one trying to get eastward. The southern part really washes out. That's why there's a chance of showers to the peninsula. Weak trough in the Gulf of Alaska, really not doing much there. But again, this front advancing eastward, so it looks like rain and breezy conditions for Adak and Atka, but not for the Fox Islands, as I mentioned. And then kind of showery and unsettled behind the front out toward the western Aleutians. Improving here over the southeast coast, another trough rolling in, but much weaker now. Could see some clearing in the afternoon, possibly, with the showers shifting mostly in toward Canada. Optimistically, a weaker trough back out here to the west. And for Tuesday, that swings through overnight tomorrow night. And so Tuesday, especially in the afternoon, look for increasing sunshine and much drier conditions. Lingering showers, though, over toward the southeast part of the Panhandle, Stewart, Hyder, and those areas over there, lingering into the afternoon. Otherwise, partly sunny skies breaking out. Mostly cloudy, scattered showers, southeast interior to about, again, the Talkeetnas and Chugach mountain areas. Turnagadarm, Girdwood, chance of showers. But high pressure here right in over northern Bristol Bay. Mostly sunny skies, Kodiak Island up across into eastern Norton Sound, the Lotto Hills, with sunshine also in advance of this next system swinging a warm front into the northwest interior. You'll see some sunshine in over the upper Yukon Valley, all the way up to the eastern Arctic coast, North Slope areas and Brooks Range. Increasing chances of rain and also increasing winds for Point Hope and Cape Lisburn out of the southwest due to a pretty good gradient, not a bad looking system for this time of year up over the, or just west of Wrangel Island. Or the Bering Sea front, Aleutian front spreads rain in across at least half of the Alaska Peninsula throughout the day. Wind's not really much of a factor. Actually a little bit breezier, but those still not very strong out over the Aleutians with some showers, breezy conditions, maybe even some clearing in sky conditions. And moving on to the, excuse me, lows for tonight, mid-50s there, upper Yukon Valley, cooling to lower 50s or upper 40s and lower 50s over the central Tanana Valley, and along the Arctic coast, mostly in the mid to upper 30s, and looks like the western North Slope will see temperatures possibly falling to the 35 to 40 degree range, warmer back here to the east, mostly in the mid to upper 40s, and then upper 40s here over the west central interior, mid 40s across the Seward Peninsula there, both Shishmaref and Nome, forecasting lows of 44 degrees, 43 at Savunga, 45 there at St. Paul and Shimia, about the same, as well as Adak and Atka. And on Alaska, we'll go 43, otherwise mid to upper 40s for the Alaska Peninsula to mostly upper 40s into Bristol Bay. Again, south central Alaska, not much change from what we've seen for days now, with low temperatures running in the upper 40s to lower to mid 50s. Also the Panhandle, 50 to 55 for your overnight low temperatures. In the Copper River Basin, a little cooler. Some areas dropping possibly down toward 40 degrees in the colder valley areas, maybe even upper 30s. Otherwise, mid 40s to near 50. Eastern Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, upper 40s. And then the highs tomorrow for those areas, 63 to 67 or so. And again, struggling to reach 70 here up over the Yukon Flats. Today, a few areas did top 70, with Beaver the warmest at 71. And probably about the same tomorrow there in the Susitna Valley. Also places like Big Lake, maybe Willow, pushing or cracking 70 possibly. Definitely well into the 60s. And for the southeast coast, still kind of cool, upper 50s to near 60 for your highs there. About the same here over the southwest interior. Mid-50s, Kotzebue Sound, Selawik Valley areas, near 40 on the central Arctic coast. 45 to 55, cooling trend continues up over the North Slope there. Temperatures today in the upper 60s at mid-afternoon Umiat Airfield, so definitely cooler tomorrow afternoon. And upper 40s for the Bering Sea, mid-40s there toward the Bering Strait, and mostly in the upper 40s to lower 50s for the Aleutians. And the lows a tad lower than that, mid to upper 40s for your overnight lows there, all the way over down Alaska. 40s right up across Bristol Bay, although approaching 50 here from Dillingham, Iliamna area, lower 50s for Kodiak Island, and 40s, mid to upper there for the central interior. South central Alaska, no change from what we've seen, and upper 30s now into the Brooks Range for those low temperatures, mid 30s out over the eastern and central Arctic coast, with again, no change for the Panhandle on those lows. Highs the next day edging up a little bit there into the lower 60s. Now maybe some lower 70s in the Susitna Valley. About the same in the upper Yukon Valley, 60s all the way southwest of the Kuskokwim Bay area.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving into flying weather, IFR crossed all of the Bering Sea, the Aleutians to the north side of the Alaska Peninsula, on up into the southwest interior here, but not quite making it past the Kuskokwim Mountains. A little bit of marginal VFR might across the northern Kuskokwim Valley to the Alaska Range, up along the mountains and eastward to some more IFR there around the Wrangell Mountains. VFR, central eastern interior, Brooks Range, marginal IFR, central and western Brooks Range, on out to the coast. And some IFR there across the Seward Peninsula, southeast coast, marginal VFR with isolated areas of IFR. And that really no change into the afternoon tomorrow there for the Panhandle, southeast interior, eastern Copper River Basin, marginal VFR, some of that extends over to the Talkeetnas, VFR, Susitna Valley, and probably the Matanuska Valley as well, down across the Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island, VFR, and marginal VFR along the central western Alaska Range, looks like across the Kuskokwim Valley to the Kuskokwim Mountains, back down to Togiak and Kuskokwim Bay. IFR mostly off the Arctic coast there, except from about, say, Prudhoe Bay to Kaktovik, and lots of IFR continues out west. Forecast for Tuesday morning, again, the east side of the Arctic coast there has the IFR. Otherwise, it's just probably grazing the central coast, marginal VFR elsewhere, and then VFR here through the western interior until you get out toward the coastline. And marginal VFR still persisting along the Alaska Range all the way around. IFR now into the coastal mountains of Wrangell, southern Wrangell, and northern Prince William Sound. VFR continues Cook Inlet in the Susitna Valley. No change out here to the west. IFR across the entire region. And IFR a little more expansive now over the eastern Panhandle, with the afternoon showing it expanding down here to the south up to the central areas, but becoming VFR, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay. Marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast, Kenai Peninsula into Cook Inlet. VFR pretty widespread over the interior. Marginal VFR, the Arctic coast. And again, IFR out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Passes Anatuvik tomorrow, marginal VFR, and about the same forecast for Adigan. And moving to Lake Clark and Merrill. Occasionally marginal, same forecast for rainy, marginal VFR at times. Windy, marginal. And Isabel, marginal VFR, risk of a afternoon thunderstorm, just a slight chance. Mentasta, same thing. VFR becoming marginal VFR, convection building, clouds developing, chance of an isolated thunderstorm possible. And for Tanita, though, it should stay VFR the entire day. Portage, though, marginal VFR to start, becoming VFR early afternoon or sooner. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing level 6,000 feet here over the northern Panhandle, so something of a gradient with 12,000 feet down across Dixon Entrance there, and probably signifies a pretty good southwest wind flow or jet right into the central and southern Panhandle. Just the opposite here, northwest winds following the gradient 12,000 feet, pretty far north here in the Bering Sea, and then roughly 6,000 feet there, 4,000 just off the western Arctic coast. Not much of a difference out here, mostly 12 to 13,000 feet, probably down by the Aleutians. And icing, and that's going to be about 12,000 feet out here to the west, with that next batch of moisture pushing eastward and a little to the northeast. Otherwise, areas of light to very isolated, considerable moderate rime icing here, roughly Susitna Valley, Denali Park, Alaska Range, back to the northwest, and then angling back northeastward there. Could be some possible areas of considerable moderate there, but not too widespread. And then some scattered areas of icing here for the Panhandle, nothing really significant there as well. And jet stream showing that southwest flow at about 82, maybe 100 knots here and across central and southern Panhandle. General trough here across all of interior Alaska. Northwest flow sailing southeastward about 80 knots here, just grazing the coastline there, then just south of Kodiak. The main low center up over the Arctic, and then the next one here pushing eastward. with that next system. 9,000-foot winds like this, westerlies through the interior, maybe up to 30 knots here across the White Mountains, northwest 25, and the coast. This system, most of the strongest winds will stay south of the Aleutians, and the Panhandle, southwest 20 to 30. Lighter winds, 3,000 feet, 10 to 15 there for the southeast coast. Westerlies 15 to 25 here through the central eastern interior. Lighter to the north, much lighter to the south. 15 to 30 knot winds out over the Aleutians. With that, isolated moderate chop becomes a little more widespread for the western Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecast.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, joined once again by the science liaison of GINA, Eric Stevens. GINA, of course, is the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, based up at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And GINA is all about satellites, and Eric is always here to tell some really cool stuff about satellites. Now, the last time you were here, we talked about how the weather satellites can see clouds and what's under the clouds, but you're telling me that satellites can do a lot more, even protect the general public with aviation safety information.
That's right. There's one particular aspect of satellites we're going to talk about today that might not be immediately obvious, and that is detecting things in the atmosphere that are not clouds, that are not snow, not rain, but rather a hazard that can happen here in Alaska, and that is volcanic ash.
Of course.
When a volcano goes off, puts ash in the air, this is of course a hazard to the public if the ash were to fall on the ground in accumulating amounts.
Sure.
Additionally, while the ash is in the air, and this is the more frequent hazard, is it's a hazard to aviation because you cannot fly an airplane into volcanic ash without great risk. Worst case scenario, the ash gets into a jet engine, wrecks the engine, kills the engine, and now you have an airplane flying with no engines. It won't fly for long. So aviators need to avoid that ash. How do you avoid the ash? You have to know where it is by identifying it with a satellite image and perhaps predicting then where the ash will flow with the overall weather patterns. Satellites are so important for identifying when a volcano goes off and then tracking the ash after the volcano injects the ash into the atmosphere.
Now, are you talking about seeing the heat signature or a huge volcanic plume with a cloud that we're used to seeing in the really pretty pictures of any Alaska volcano that's erupted recently, Redoubt, for example? Or are we talking about the really fine details? Because this is polar orbiting satellites, the ones that are very low to the ground, right?
The geostationary satellites can do some detection. The polar orbiters, like you say, they're closer to the Earth. They give the even better view. In answer to your question, I would say all of the above. A heat signature from a volcano going off with all the heat that comes with the eruption, that can be identified in infrared imagery. We've got images from the Kamchatka Peninsula. That's the far eastern part of Russia on the western side of the Bering Sea, loaded with volcanoes. You know, Alaska has plenty of volcanoes of its own. We can also be affected when a volcano goes off in Kamchatka, say, and then the weather carries that ash toward Alaska from the west. You can see the infrared heat signature, like you say. Also, the ash in the air can be detected by doing some sophisticated channel differencing within the satellite data. You can find the identification of sulfur dioxide, say, that's a component of the volcanic emission, and you can trace this with the satellite imagery. Sometimes volcanoes go off that haven't gone off before, and we're not expecting them to go off. Say if there's no seismometers around a given volcano that hasn't gone off in 100 years, you might not be expecting it to go off. In the satellite imagery, since satellites can be globally comprehensive, that might be the first sign that you have that a volcano in an unexpected area is going off.
So it's a good backup system.
Right, right. And people are working all the time on automating the interrogation of satellite data by computers to provide a first alert to a human, so the software will say, we think this might be important. Human, go take a closer look. Because the people are still the best way to interrogate the imagery, but the planet's a big place, and we can't be looking everywhere all the time, so the software helps give a first cut. And then in Alaska, there's a special kind of surprise angle where the satellites are helpful, and that is the Katmai eruption of 1912. Huge eruption. There is still somewhat of a moonscape out there in southwest Alaska where all this ash is laying on the ground. And sometimes a strong weather pattern comes along where we have roaring northwest winds that go across the Alaska Peninsula there and can actually pick some of this ash up off the ground. No volcano is going off. This was more than 100 years ago that volcano actually blew. So you're not going to see a heat signature like we were discussing. There will be no seismic signature of a volcano going off. So those data sets, they'll say, oh, no problem. But you can see in some of the satellite imagery this ash, as it's called, resuspended. When the wind comes along, picks it up, the ash can be lofted a few thousand feet in the air just with the wind. And an airplane flying into that plume is exposed to some danger. So we need to track that ash to provide guidance to aviators that you don't want to be flying here at these elevations in this area. We've got some imagery of the resuspension, and you can see the wind blowing strongly from the northwest, picking up the ash and blowing it down to the southeast. And so that's another, perhaps not immediately obvious hazard of volcanic ash. Katmai is the gift that keeps on giving, for sure.
Very good. So we've got satellites that can help us understand the weather from the past and the immediate past, and we talked last time about how that's feeding into the forecast modeling to help improve predictions, but now they're also protecting the general public with aviation sensitive information and watching volcanoes, whether they're erupting or maybe have erupted in the past, and finding the left behinds from those volcanic events there. So really impressive stuff. Eric, thanks so much for joining us again today, and you're a gift that keeps on giving from the satellite community, so thanks a lot, and we hope to have you back again soon. Again, Eric Stevens with Dehne at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And if you'd like to check out any of the information that Eric has shared with us again today, you can do that very easily by going to www.dehne.alaska.edu. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis, not a lot of change from what we've saw yesterday or on Friday, with same trends still expected over the next several days, with a general retreat in the ice edge from just east of Wrangell Island here over toward the northwest coast or the western coast. And slow thaw along the eastern coastline will continue, very slow, more so up through here to the northeast of the Prudhoe Bay area. And for tonight, coastal water forecast on the southeast coast, southwest 10 to 15 with seas running at about 8 feet. Southwest 20 with 9-foot seas on the north coast. Lynn Canal, south 25, seas 5 feet. Southeast at 20 for Stevens Passage, south 15 for Clarence Strait with 3-foot seas. And that holds through Tuesday for Clarence Strait. Wind swing around to the north at 15 for Stevens Passage. And southerlies a little lighter for Lynn Canal out of the, at 20 knots, 4-foot seas, north to northwest here on the south coast of 15. Northwest 15 on the north coast, the extreme north coast, becoming south at 10, so a lot more lighter and more variable up in this area. Prince William Sound, westerlies on the light side tomorrow, 10 knots, southwest 10 for the Middleton Island zone, west 20 here for the western North Gulf Coast, and then small craft advisories for both the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, and southern Cook Inlet for 25-knot winds. Westerlies here blowing out of Kamishak Bay in the Barrens, across the Barrens, southwest southern Cook Inlet, 20 knots north of the Forelands with seas running at 4 feet. And for Tuesday, lighter winds coming up for Cook Inlet with south to southwest at 10, westerlies at 15 for Kamishak Bay across the Barrens, east at 10 here for the western North Gulf North Gulf Coast. The western North Gulf Coast, the east side southwest at 10. Really light and variable winds here for this area for the day Tuesday, as well as Prince William Sound. We'll call it east at 10. And for Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait has small craft advisories out for tomorrow, otherwise 20 knots on the east side. Sitkinak to Castle Cape, northwest at 15, westerlies at 20 knots across the Alaska Peninsula, 15 knots for Bristol Bay. Those will drop to 10 knots for Bristol Bay on Tuesday with south to southeast 20 for the peninsula, and light southwesterlies here from Castle Cape to Sitkinak, southwest 15 for the Kodiak Island zones. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, west-southwest 15 to 20 knots, seas 4 to 5 feet. And with the front coming in from the west tomorrow, south winds increasing to 25 knots here for Adak and then Atka. 25-knot winds drop back to 20 knots there once you get west of probably Kiska Island. Then a pretty uniform wind pattern coming up for the Aleutians, at least the western central areas on Tuesday. West 20 knots, seas 7 to 8 feet, highest out west. And west-southwest 20 to 25 knots here, strongest winds across Unalaska Island. That's where you'll see the small craft advisories, otherwise 5 to 7 foot seas. And for the southwest coast, west and northwest at 15, pretty light. North 15, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island. West 15, St. Matthew Island. West at 20 for the Pribilofs with 6 foot seas. And then for Tuesday, southeast at 20 with 5 foot seas. Light southwest winds blowing into Kuskokwim Bay. South 15 here, northern Nunivak Island, northern Bering Sea. Southwest 20 now for St. Lawrence Island. Eastern Beaufort Sea coast, northwest 15 tomorrow, turning westerly here on the central and west side, all the way down to Cape Thompson. Then it's back to northwest at 15. And for Tuesday, small craft advisories coming into the picture here for the Chukchi Sea up to Cape Thompson, and then 20 knots to Cape Beaufort. South 15 turns southwest at 15 on the central coast, and even lighter, and becoming more westerly over toward Demarcation Point. Tonight, frontal boundary right through here, and a couple of waves rolling northeastward along that boundary. So that's going to keep it wet across the southeast coast tonight. And rain lightening up for the Yakutat area, ending here in the North Gulf Coast. Showers along this weakening trough trying to push inland here out in the west. And then for tomorrow, decreasing showers for the southeast coast. Isolated thunderstorms possible, Talkeetnas, eastern Alaska Range, and again up over the eastern Brooks Range. Showers along the trough here in the lower to mid Yukon River Valley area, maybe the Kuskokwim, drying back out to the west. The next system spreads rain to the central Aleutians tomorrow. That advances to the Alaska Peninsula on Tuesday. Otherwise, sunshine over much of the interior.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.